What's going on, Legionnaires, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, and make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out. Now, for this video, we're going to be jumping into the Infinite Frontier with Batman issue 109. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with this line, go ahead and check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It will take you to a playlist that will get you completely caught up. Now, with this video, it will bring us all the way caught up with the Batman line, and we will continue to keep up with it as new issues come out. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we get into issue 109, we pick up at Fort Gray, Batman's current home, and right now he's sitting in his garage going over everything him and Miracle Molly had a discussion about. And that discussion in the last issue really made Bruce question that if he were to just forget his past, if he were to have like his memory wiped, would that make him a better Batman? Would that make it possible for him to actually be able to save Gotham City? But after doing some reflecting, a little bit of thinking on this, he gets back online and contacts Oracle. And Oracle, she begins to fill him in on everything that he's missed out on while he was going undercover trying to investigate the Insanity Collective. But he did hear chatter on his way back about more Scarecrows popping up. One of them being at GCPD, another one at the Old City Cathedral. And the press is just having a field day frenzy with this. And this is stirring up so much fear. They're hyping it up, saying that a fear toxin attack could be the next thing they see coming. And so what Batman said has come to fruition. Scarecrow is instilling fear into the populace without ever having to use a gas or a toxin. He is using the media to do this. Not only that, but the media is also claiming that the Insanity Collective is working with Scarecrow, and this is only making the populace more terrified. But Batman, he needs to know more about who Simon Saint is, because he is the one that hired the Insanity Collective to start robbing these media Mongols in the first place. And he tells Oracle to get in contact with Ghostmaker because he may need his help on this one. Ghostmaker, out of everybody that Batman works with, he isn't susceptible to fear toxin in the way that everybody else is. But that's what will bring us to Ghostmaker and his quote-unquote Batcave. He calls it the Haunt, and he's brought Harley Quinn up here after he rescued her before she got arrested for hitting a cop. And taking her inside, Ghostmaker is literally just trying to mimic and one-up Batman any chance he can get. You know, Batman had a dinosaur in his Batcave, and so Ghostmaker, he has a freaking Spinosaurus. And he's even got the cool fancy car, but he's severely disappointed with it because it doesn't match up to Batman's. And we see Ghostmaker, he goes and pulls out some champagne, getting changed, getting dressed, covering half his face because he doesn't allow anybody to see his face. Well, at least there's only a handful of individuals that have seen his face up to this point. And Harley, she has to ask the question, you know, there's champagne, you're changing in front of me, like, is this a you want to kill me thing or you want to bang me thing? But for Ghostmaker, he finds her fascinating. And not necessarily in a sexual manner, because she was a trained therapist who fell in love with one of the most dangerous men on the planet. And she spent years terrorizing society. I mean, it was just a couple years ago when the government had to put a bomb in her neck just to get her to do something good. And now she's running around the city that she used to terrorize, trying to be of service to somebody. And she is persistent. She has not stopped, no matter how many times Batman has to say that she is not his sidekick. And so for him, it's just rare to see people like them go down this path. Because when Ghostmaker was 8 years old, he was diagnosed as a legitimate psychopath. An individual that does not feel any kind of empathy or any kind of fear. And so in that moment, when he was diagnosed, he had a choice to make. He could use his natural deficiency to excel in a mundane field, excel in a mundane lifestyle, sleep with every man and woman that he chooses, or he could challenge himself by setting out to do the one thing that nobody ever could: to try and fix the world. And these two, they pull out some swords and they start doing a little sparring. But while they're sparring, they're still having a conversation. And Harley, she asks the question, "What's up with your mask? Why do you consistently keep one on?" And he lets us know that there are fewer than 5 people alive who have ever seen his entire face. And only 3 of them actually know his birth name. But in the middle of their little sparring match, they get interrupted by the gardener. Now the gardener, she has come here to have a conversation with Harley Quinn. And she came and waited for this specific time in the haunt to be able to do it, to make sure that there are no ears being able to hear in. Now the gardener, she was Pamela's girlfriend back in college, but right now she's more concerned about where poison ivy may be. But the eyes that they're trying to keep off of them is poison ivy's, because the gardener lets us know that she is deep rooted inside the city. But this confuses Harley Quinn, because Harley has searched for months and months and has not found any sign of where poison ivy could be. And that's because there is a thick jungle growing deep underneath Gotham City, and it's growing out around from poison ivy. And she's not letting anybody in, but it is spreading day by day. Her vines are eating into the city's foundation, and she sees it as a mutually assured destruction. Because if someone were to come for her, if someone were to remove her, doing so would bring down all of Gotham City. Now, Gardener, she tried talking to her, but she wasn't having it. And it appears that something is missing from Poison Ivy. And so she has really come to tell Harley Quinn that Poison Ivy needs you. She may be the only person to be able to reach Ivy. Now, while all this was going on, Ghostmaker had ignored the phone call coming from Oracle. In doing this, Oracle got really mad, broke through his systems, and shows up like a giant Jor-El head, saying that she has a message from Batman. And with that, the gardener, she tells Harley Quinn that whenever she is ready to come find her, that way they can go find Poison Ivy. And this is where we pick up at Saint Industries, and right now Mr. Saint is talking to Hugh, the mayor's assistant, about how this program is going to be able to work. Because for this to be able to operate the way that they want it to, the mayor is going to need to keep Gotham's old money in line. Individuals like Mr. Worth is taking a lot of big risks right now, and they need that to kind of slow down. But this is where we see Hugh leave, and with his exit, Batman makes his entrance, asking Mr. Saint where Scarecrow is. Now, Mr. Saint's assistant, he tries getting into the mix of it, and his assistant has a kind of prototype Peacekeeper robotic arm. But this is no match for Batman. Batman takes this dude and just chucks him to the side. And this impresses Mr. Saint, because he's surprised that his gauntlets can take that kind of crushing power. But he claims to be able and willing to help Batman however he wants. And Batman grabs this dude, lifts him up, and asks him where Scarecrow is, because he knows that they are working together. Now, of course, Mr. Saint, he declines any of this to be true, saying that he would never work with the likes of a supervillain, and he is working effortlessly to take down individuals like Scarecrow and the Unsanity Collective. And this is where Mr. Saint, he really kind of disrespects Batman in the most elegant way possible, telling Batman that he did a great job of cleaning up the gangsters of old. But it appears that he is losing control, and this is spiraling too much out of his hands, and that he is no longer the individual that this city needs. But his idea of the Magistrate program, that will be news tomorrow, because the mayor has green-lighted this program. And this is where we see from behind him, Peacekeeper number 1. We see Sean Mahoney, the first line of defense in the new Magistrate army. And Peacekeeper, he wastes no time grabbing a hold of Batman and chucking him into the ceiling. And he tells Batman that he needs to stay down because he is now under arrest. Because as it stands, the mayor has issued a new kind of warning to the city that all masked individuals, vigilante or villain, are now to be banned in the city. And with this new Magistrate pilot program, this will be the new line of defense, all starting with Peacekeeper number 1. And while Mr. Saint is giving him this entire speech, we see off in the distance, City Hall explode. Now this was all planned by Mr. Saint, but he is going to try to pin this on the Unsanity Collective, further needing or making need for his Magistrate program, making need for his peacekeepers, driving the city into the kind of state of panic where they would immediately sign up for this program. And so we see Batman try to jump into action, throwing a bunch of different gadgets at Peacekeeper, but Peacekeeper, he is well built. This is a match that Batman was not prepared for. And so we see him cut a hole into the floor using a laser pin and then killing all of the lights to try to use this to his advantage. And we see Peacekeeper, he jumps down into this hole following behind him, and Batman is close right there, ready to hit him for a good loop. Now that's what will bring us to the Ghostmaker part of this issue. And picking up with this, we pick up back on Devil Skull Island. And right now he is fighting yet another barrage of robotic beasts. This time being giant snakes, being freaking cyber cobras. But he still has the head of the tiger that he cut off that had laser eyes, and he is using this to his full advantage. Like, he is literally cleaning up one objective after another. Nothing is being able to stand in his way. And this is where Brainstorm, he's like, alright, I'm getting out of here. Like, I am done with this fight. I'm done with all of this. I'm done with all of you. I know when it's time to leave, and now is the time. And Madame Midas, she asks why. And it's because Ghostmaker will stop at nothing to do exactly what he aims to do. And this is where we get the story of Brainstorm. Now, he was 7 years old when the American pharmaceutical company pulled him from the slums. They killed his parents and erased his past. They gave him a number and started giving him some kind of experimental brain-expanding drugs. But these drugs, they worked all too well. They gave him the abilities he have, and they weren't prepared for it. They had no defense against it. Now, it took him years to hunt down all the research facilities to find all of the scientists who did this to him, and he killed every single one of them. But he did it. He had killed all of them, and he thought it was over. But one of them had sold the research information to a rival company for millions of dollars, and they were looking to recreate the horrors that had birthed him with a new generation of child experiments. But this job was extremely personal for him. He wanted to make every soulless corporation fear ever touching this research again. And he did that by killing and brutally murdering all of them in the worst ways possible. He was determined to kill every living human thing in that building, to leave a scar of a new deal that would expose their cruelty to the world. And he wanted to free all of the children that they had been experimenting on, thinking maybe he could even bring them in, train them up, and give them a better life than he had been given. But when he gets to the children's room where they're supposed to be held, he finds only Ghostmaker. And Ghostmaker tells him that he used to admire him, because there's something thrilling when somebody's wronged and gets to make things right. But after he had killed everybody that had done this to him, he ended up selling out his talents and becoming a hitman. And this is something that Ghostmaker cannot abide by, because he sold himself to the highest bidder, the same people that made him into the person he is today. But the thing is, there were never children here. This was all a setup because Ghostmaker is working with the Indian government to bring this kid down. And right now, his suit is broadcasting a psychic recording of a frightened baby, pure adolescent in fear. And he's doing this because when Brainstorm uses his psychic abilities, this is when he becomes vulnerable to psychic attacks. And in this moment, we see Brainstorm shrivel up like a little kid in extreme terrifying fear. And Ghostmaker tells him that he had really hoped so much better for him. And Ghostmaker, he puts a contraption onto Brainstorm, which kind of negates his powers. And he brings him to a place where scientists are gonna try to take his powers away, to try to reverse what had happened to him. And Ghostmaker, he left without even looking over his shoulder, and Brainstorm was stuck there for 5 years being experimented on until he gained the strength to be able to break out of this prison. And now he knows that he will never, ever underestimate Ghostmaker again. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think. You know, these last couple issues have divulged tons and tons of information, not only about Ghostmaker, but about Batman, how the Magistrate began, how the city got to the point of being so afraid that they would allow a kind of army to come in, a private army, and take over everything. And we're seeing it's all because Mr. Saint, the individual that's creating the Peacekeeper program, is working side by side with Scarecrow. And this is something that Batman hasn't seen coming. He hasn't seen the Peacekeepers coming. He didn't know much about the Magistrate program to begin with. And so we're gonna have to find out in the next issue if Batman is able to hold his own against Sean Mahoney, aka Peacekeeper number 1. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.